I can't be the only one that notices that Vecna's body looks just like the Grinch, right? Yeah, the Grinch. My name is Ryan, and you're watching Goreism, the channel where I fill your void on all things horror, weird, and just plain creepy. Today we're talking about Stranger Things Season 4, what I liked, what I disliked, and overall what I thought of Volume 1 that was just released on Netflix. Fair warning, there's going to be a few spoilers. Overall, I really think that Stranger Things Season 4 is a total success, and I really feel like this is definitely the most emotional and most that we've gotten from characters. And that being said, I feel like we're getting the big emotional journeys from, for sure, Max and from 11. I think that they both really carried the weight of the show. And I think that ultimately the show had positives and negatives by separating the characters into different storylines. And I think that was a really cool aspect of the show. And I think it gave us a little bit more time to learn about the characters and kind of see their personalities and things like that. But it almost feels like disjointed in a way that everything was kind of separate. I did enjoy aspects of Russia. I just thought that over time, that storyline was the only one to me that felt a little bit like I kind of wanted it to end, only because I really ultimately want them to be together. So that was the only one that I was a little bit iffy about. I never necessarily had a favorite character. Of course, like 11 was on the top of the list, but this season I will pretty much can say that Max is for sure my favorite character. I think, and I agree with almost everyone that says episode 4 was amazing, and just that whole episode was so epic, and she really sold it. Also, I just really love that the Kate Bush song that was featured heavily in episode 4, Running Up That Hill, I think it's really great that that song went back into the charts. It was like in the top 10 of iTunes, and I don't know, I think it's awesome that a show like Stranger Things can give life to things from so long ago and to just expose a new audience to music that has been around for a really long time, and I'm just such a music lover. Okay, so let's talk Will Byers. Here's the thing. I think that Will Byers is such an essential character for the show. Like, he was the main part of season 1, and of course he's been a main character throughout the whole series, but I don't know, it almost feels like they've made him a secondary character as far as like his storyline goes. Of course, they've alluded a lot to his sexuality, and I don't know if they're just kind of like dropping these little hints and not ever going to address it. We still have 2 episodes left, of course, but there's the whole like footsie thing he pulls away. A previous season, I don't remember if it was last or the season before, where Mike says, you don't even like girls, and then he has that whole speech situation where he's talking about it's hard to be yourself or whatever, and then the whole painting thing, we still don't know what that is, so I'm curious to see if we ever find out, but I would be interested to see what it is. Essentially, it just feels like Will is really left out of everything. There's the whole scene at the skating rink, and they're filming 11, and this is a really interesting detail that I've heard some people talk about, but not a lot of people are saying, is throughout the series, they basically stated that Will's birthday is March 22nd. So as they're filming 11 on the retro camera, of course, because it takes place in the 80s, they have the dates on the bottom. And on the bottom, the date says March 22nd, which would be Will's birthday. So it's weird that no one addressed it. 11 didn't address it. His brother didn't address it. Joyce didn't address it. And Mike didn't address it. So it's a big thing. So I don't know if it's going to be something that comes up later on in the next 2 episodes, really, where he says something about being left out or not caring about him or whatever it is. But they couldn't have put that there and not known. So it definitely is probably something that is going to come up at a later time, I would think, or even maybe next season, him bringing up how no one ever said anything to him. So far in Volume 1, we've had some really amazing characters, and I'm not going to get too in depth with them just because I want to wait until I finish the last 2 episodes, but I think that they seamlessly all kind of fit into the storyline of what was happening, and it could be just because the story of Stranger Things so far, since the characters are all separated, it let them kind of like move in and out very easily, and it didn't feel like, oh, who's this new character? Like, I kind of immediately fell in love with the Eddie character, and I feel that way for most of all the new characters they have, but we will talk more about that once we kind of see what happens in the last 2 episodes. Listen, I'm giving you justice for Jonathan because I feel bad for the guy. You know, we have the love triangle. It's Nancy, Jonathan, and Steve, and granted, yes, Nancy and Steve are very cute together, and I really like Steve's character, but they've already gone their separate ways, so I feel like we've accepted the fact that they're not together and that her and Jonathan are now together. But they're kind of like letting Jonathan be like, well, I'm just going to let her go because that makes more sense for her. And then she's saying all these things to Robin about him, and they're really setting it up. in a very obvious way that Nancy and him are going to get back together. I did a video last week where I did my top 5 things I was excited for Stranger Things, and I think it was number 3 or number 2 that I was excited for was a darker season, and I can happily say that they definitely have given us that. It is super dark, and it's not like gratuitous dark. It is dark enough where it makes sense, and granted the show is a lot scarier than past seasons, but it's done so well. I will say, has anyone else noticed that Vecna's victims look a lot like Jenny McCarthy in Scary Movie, where she's like, "Are you okay?" And she turns her around and she's like, has anyone else noticed that? Also, this is definitely like an ode, like I said in my previous video, to Nightmare on Elm Street. Just the music alone, the visuals, like the concept of Vecna, like everything, it feels like an updated idea of what Nightmare on Elm Street is. And the fact that Robert Englund is in the show, I think is great because it doesn't feel like it's a ripoff. It doesn't feel like it was taken from Nightmare on Elm Street. It feels like it's a tribute to Nightmare on Elm Street, if you understand what I'm saying. Here's my thing about how they released Stranger Things. So as you know, they released episodes 1 through 7 this past Friday, and they're releasing episodes 8 and 9 on July 1st. You know, I think it was a cool idea, but I ultimately think that it made it difficult for people to talk about the show because not everyone's on the same timeline. You know, I watched, I believe, the first episode at midnight right when it came out, and then I watched 2 the next day or 3 or something, and then it was like the rest after that. So not everyone's gonna be on the same timeline. So I would see friends of mine and I would be like, "Oh, hey, did you watch Stranger Things?" And like, "Yes." And so then I started talking about it and they're like, "Oh, we only saw the first 2 episodes or the first 3. Whereas if they would have released maybe 1 or maybe even 2 episodes at a time, it would give everyone kind of a better chance of getting on the same page as far as like viewing goes. So I think that's the only thing that I feel like was an issue. And I do agree with a lot of people that it would have been better if it was released in a different manner, maybe not so many at once, just because we're inundated with so many things about Stranger Things, and it just would have like spread out, I feel like, the excitement for the show. This is definitely the first season I feel like has connected storyline with the big bad of the season. We now know that Vecna essentially has affected or has been part of the Mind Flayer in the past, so I'm really interested to kind of see where it goes. So I don't necessarily want to give Volume 1 a rating yet, only because I feel like there's 2 more episodes and I don't know how long they're going to be, and I also don't know what the storyline of those episodes are going to be, and I feel like they could drastically change everything that we've seen so far. But I will say that I am confident that I think this is probably the best season of Stranger Things. So thanks again for joining me here at Gorism, the channel where I essentially talk about everything horror related. This is just my first and sporadic thoughts about Stranger Things, the first part, and I know we still have 2 more episodes left, so I'm super excited to see kind of where that goes. And there's still a lot of story I feel like to get into. We still got to get Hopper back from Russia, and we still got to get the kids all together, so I think there's a lot to tell still. Also, I have some predictions. I'm not going to say yet, but I hope that some of them do happen, and I hope that some of them don't happen. So like, subscribe, follow, and leave some comments down below so we can talk all things Stranger Things. I would love to know what you guys think so far. Do you love it? Do you hate it? And also, what are your predictions for the next 2 episodes? We'll talk soon.